Emerald Fennell has done it again. Let's talk about her new twisted tale, Saltburn. Hey everyone, it's David Stark from Watch or Pass. I'm here to talk to you about Saltburn, Emerald Fennell's all-new tale that comes to select theaters on November 17, 2023, and to a wider release on November 22nd, 2023. It's a new film that looks at privilege and class and wealth disparity and also desire. It is a dark tale that has funny moments and some pretty twisted moments. My hot take is, look, I definitely think you should watch it. It's a strange, dark, comedic, slow burn film with an amazing cast and a twisted story, and it manages to feel both classic and refreshing at the same time. It's an interesting film. I really, really liked it. There were some very strange moments. It's not going to be for everyone, but look, I really enjoyed it. It's another arrow in Emerald Fennell's like amazing film quiver. So I'm going to tell you a little more about this film, a few things I liked, a few things I didn't like, and then really quickly go into the ending. So as you can imagine, there will be spoilers in the ending section. If you don't want to know what happens in this movie, and you probably don't, there are a lot of twists and some pretty big surprises at the end. I would turn it off then, but before that, I'll keep it vague, I'll keep it spoiler free, and I'll let you know when I get to the spoilers. So in Saltburn, you have Oliver, who is this kind of awkward kid who is starting at Oxford, and he is not kind of part of the in-crew. He seems to come from some limited means. He doesn't really have a good support network, a good family. He basically is throwing himself into Oxford, but he doesn't have a lot of friends. But by chance, he gets into the good graces of this character, Felix, who is kind of like the king of this area. He is a popular student. He is personable. He's charismatic. Everyone seems to love him. Everyone seems to kind of want to be around him. And Oliver manages to get into his inner circle, and that leads to a whirlwind experience and a crazy summer that will leave them both very, very different people. So, things I liked about this movie. The first, I loved the humor, the wit. It is a very funny movie in very different ways. There are some laugh out loud moments. There are some like darkly comedic moments. There's some awkward comedy. It has all sorts, and I loved it. It's going to definitely make you smile at times. It's going to definitely make you cringe at times, but throughout, I just love the kind of humor, the twisted sense of humor, and the very funny moments that this movie had. The second thing I love, look, I love the cast. It is a fantastic cast. Anytime you got Barry Keoghan and Jacob Elordi, I am happy with those two. They both kind of carry the movie in very different ways. They are very different characters, but they do a fantastic job. Rosamund Pike is fantastic. I love seeing her as kind of the matron of Felix's family. She is out there. She says some pretty ridiculous things, but she plays her character perfectly. I mean, pretty much everyone that is kind of in the main Saltburn manor is fantastic. I love Richard Grant as the father, Alison Oliver as sister, Archie Madekwe as like the half brother. They all were very different, fun characters, and they all kind of played their part in this twisted tale perfectly. The third thing I love, look, I love the music. It has a kind of like wonderful, serious, dark music at the start when it's a little bit more serious. Then kind of as the movie gets a little bit more fun, you get a little more pop music, a little more kind of like upbeat music, but it goes back and forth, right? This tale twists and turns, and so you have some upbeat music, you've got some very dark, serious music, and it always contributes to the overall scene. And the fourth thing I loved, there were some really great camera work. Like there are some really amazing tracking shots that follow the characters through, especially when they're first exploring this like Saltburn Manor. There was a really, really long shot where they kind of go through the entire place, and you get to see kind of the just size of this this house, and it's really fun to see it kind of follow. And also the film starts with a tracking shot when Oliver first gets to Oxford. You kind of follow him through his very awkward first moments. They are really well done, impressive ways to kind of like start and emphasize certain things in this movie. And the last thing I love the story. It is a twisted story with a ton of twists. You get some new information here and there. You have some big revelations, but throughout you'll try to guess what happens next. And I bet you're not going to be able to guess everything because there are some out there moments. So all that being said, things I didn't love, there really wasn't anything. Look, this is not going to be a movie for everyone. There are some very strange scenes. There's some very weird moments that happen, but I liked it. I thought that they contributed to kind of the absurdity of this movie, the absurdity of the situations, and also show some of the characters like very strange quirks, some of the lengths that they'll go to do certain things. So I really liked it. I liked the movie from start to finish. So that is Saltburn. Definitely check it out when it comes to select theaters on November 17, 2023, and to a wider release on November 22nd, 2023. It's an Amazon movie, so eventually it'll probably come to Amazon Prime. but we don't have that information just yet. So check it out in theaters while you can. It'll definitely be up for some sort of Oscars when the time comes. So I'm going to get into the ending now. So if you don't want to know what happens in this movie, I would turn it off now because there will be spoilers. So in Saltburn, you have Oliver, who is just starting out at Oxford. He is very awkward. He kind of doesn't have any friends. He doesn't really kind of fit in with anyone. He's very quiet. He's socially awkward. He doesn't really fit in with Oxford and the overall vibe. But eventually, through chance, he ends up kind of becoming friends with this character, Felix. Oliver is biking into town. He sees Felix with like a flat tire. Felix says he's late for an appointment. So Oliver lets him borrow his bike, just, being nice and, helping out someone. And this helps him kind of like come into Felix's inner circle. Felix latches onto him. They become quick friends. And Felix kind of changes Oliver's Oxford experience and changes him like overall. He started off, he's awkward. He was, quiet. He didn't really have many friends. He slowly starts to come out of his shell. He slowly starts to be kind of more of a popular kid and start to make friends slowly but surely with the people around him. But through this all, people seem to imply that like Felix is just kind of using him. Like he's his new fun toy. He's his new plaything. And eventually he'll go tired of him. And then at one point, Oliver is hanging out with him and he kind of like criticizes his room and says like it's dirty. And he tries to clean it up. And Felix gets upset with him. He's like, I'm not a child. I can do this myself. And then there seems to be a little bit kind of a break in their friendship. He doesn't call him when they go out to the bar later. He seems to kind of make new friends. It seems like maybe he is done with Oliver. So Oliver doesn't know what to do. But the next thing we find out is that Oliver gets a call from his mother. He goes over to Felix's room. He's like upset. He's crying. Turns out his father like died. His father was an alcoholic or some sort of addict. He tripped, he like busted his head open and he died. And this, Oliver is obviously upset. Felix is a caring person. He does still care about his friends. So this seems to kind of like mend their friendship. And they have this really sweet moment at the end of the semester when everyone's out like partying at the end of year, I guess, ball or something like that. Felix takes Oliver over to the river and kind of shows him this tradition that his family has where when someone dies, they write their name on a stone and they throw it in the water after like, having a moment of silence or saying some nice words about them. He does that for Oliver. They drink, and eventually Felix invites Oliver to come stay at his family's house for the summer. Felix comes from wealth. His house is huge. His family is strange, but he wants Oliver to come and like hang out for the summer. Oliver takes him up on this, and then the kind of craziness does happen. They get to this manor named Saltburn, which is why the movie's called Saltburn. It is a manor that Felix and his family live in. And when they get there, you just see the kind of massive, massive expanse of this place. It is a manor. It is huge. There's a ton of rooms, a ton of art, a ton of wealth, clearly. And Oliver is now kind of like part of this family for the summer. And it is awkward at times because the family pries. The family has a lot of quirks there. So there is Felix's mother, Elspeth, his father, Sir James, his sister, Venetia. They're kind of like half-brother, I think, or cousin, Farleigh, who lives with them. And this other person named Pamela, who's kind of like Elspeth's friend, who has kind of like overstayed her welcome, but everyone is like too nice to kind of force her out. So you have this strange cast of characters, this like very odd family dynamic, but one that Oliver is now a part of and slowly embraces. Now it's awkward at the start. He doesn't really know this place. He kind of is not used to like having servants wait on him and things like that. But slowly but surely, he starts to kind of become more comfortable and starts to kind of like have a fun summer. And this is when the music turns into like more of a pop music type scenario where they're relaxing, they're laying out in the sun, they're playing tennis, they're drinking. It looks like a ton of fun. But you also get a sense that, perhaps Oliver is a little bit more sinister than we let on. You get a little bit of this early on when he's at Oxford. He kind of like becomes obsessed a little bit with Felix. He kind of watches him at night if he thinks that Felix is doing something and not telling him. Well, at Saltburn, he also gets a little bit of that kind of like creepy vibe. He studies Saltburn, like he studies like this book about Saltburn and all the like the artifacts in there. And he also seems to kind of like sneak around and observe a lot of things at night, and especially observing Felix in various moments. Like they share a bathroom. He observes Felix in the bath one day, and then like After Felix gets out and the water drains, he like drinks the bath water, things like that, like very odd behavior. But he also does a really good job of kind of like blending in with the family and also trying to like make himself be a part of this. So it's an interesting kind of dynamic where he'll be having fun with the family and then like this creepy stuff will happen. Now, he also seems to start maybe playing the family off of each other. He has one moment where he tries to like hit on Elspeth, the mother, and like very like briefly kind of hits on her, but then also kind of like reinforces her opinions on things and try to like get into her good graces. He hooks up with Venetia, the sister. He also kind of like hooks up with Farleigh, the half brother or cousin. He starts to kind of like play these characters off each other and starts to sow a little bit of discontent, a little bit of chaos. Eventually, Farleigh gets kicked out of the house because he tries to pawn off one of the Saltburn artifacts. His mom seems to be in like financial trouble, and so he is asking the family for money. They don't want to give him any more money. They're at least they're putting him up, but they don't want to like give him money for his family. So he tried to pawn one of the artifacts. This got back to them, and he gets kicked out. So now Farleigh is out. The only kids left are Felix, Venetia, and Oliver. So now during this summer, Oliver has a birthday and the family kind of wants to throw him a birthday party. So they plan this big birthday party for him. It's going to be a wonderful affair. But before this, Felix says, hey, we're going to go on a road trip. And so Oliver's excited. He doesn't know where they're going. They start driving and they're driving for a while. And eventually Oliver starts to recognize where they're going. And it turns out eventually Felix is going to take him to his home. Now, Oliver has been telling Felix the entire time that his mother's a drug addict. His father, died on a binge, and his home is like broken. It's not happy. He doesn't want to be there. But Felix apparently picked up Oliver's phone accidentally, and it was his mother calling. And he talked to her. She seemed to be doing well. She seemed to be doing better. So Felix wanted to surprise Oliver by taking him to his house and visiting with him and getting to know his family. But Oliver starts freaking out when he realizes where they're going. Oliver starts saying, like, turn around. Like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go there. And Felix is like, no, it's fine. Like, we'll go together. I'll be there with you. It'll be okay. It's a very sweet gesture by Felix, but Oliver clearly doesn't want to get there. Now, when they finally do show up, the house is a nice house. It's not a manor, but it is a very nice house. Oliver's mother answers the door. She seems very nice. She's very happy to see Oliver. She's like, I haven't talked to you in a very long time. And then she mentions that his dad is out back. And Felix is like, your dad? And Felix is like, your dad? Is like, oh yeah, he's out back gardening. They sit down to talk, and it turns out that Oliver seemed to have a fairly normal life. His mother and father are there. He apparently had sisters, even though he told Felix he was an only child. His house doesn't seem that broken. His house doesn't seem that dirty. It seems like everyone is happy and healthy. And Felix just kind of laughs throughout this. Oliver clearly is uncomfortable. He wants to get out of there, but Felix kind of lets this all play out. So when they get back to Saltburn, Felix kind of confronts him and says, like, you're a liar. Like, I don't know who you are. Let's just get through this party. And I think it's best if you leave tomorrow. Now, the party happens. It is a massive party with, it's like a medieval Renaissance kind of theme. There are drinks, food, decorations, all sorts of craziness. It seems like a very fun party, but it doesn't seem like Oliver is having much fun. Like, he knows the jig is up. He knows that Felix knows his secret, and he also feels a little bit kind of isolated. Like, this is weird because it's his party, but no one seems to know him. His best friend, his friend is like staying away from him. He's kind of like driven apart the rest of the family. He kind of feels very alone at this party that's for him. Now, eventually, he is trying to like get some time with Felix to explain. Felix wants nothing to do with it. And eventually, he follows Felix into this hedge maze. He follows Felix with a girl into this hedge maze, watches Felix hook up with her. After they're done, he says, like, Felix, we need to talk. The girl is kind of like freaked out by this, as she should be. So she leaves, and Oliver and Felix talk. Felix calls him a liar, and Oliver's like, no, I just gave you what you wanted. Like, I lied like everyone else does. I'm putting on a show for Felix. He tells him that he loves him. He's the only friend he's had, that he is still the same person. And Felix doesn't seem to like this. He's like pretty cold to him. He says, like, I don't know who you are, but I know that you make my blood cold. And so after this, Oliver's upset. he says, like, I don't care what you think, and he like goes to the corner and throws up. Felix drinks some more, and that seems to be that. Oliver, he tells Oliver to go to bed. Oliver leaves, doesn't really go to bed. He seems to stay up the whole night. And the next morning, we see the aftermath of the party. The manor is destroyed, but the servants are all out there cleaning, getting everything polished up, getting everything fixed. But there also seems to be a little bit of commotion. It seems like people are looking for someone. We see Farleigh, who was re-invited back to the party, seems to be back in the family, and Venetia searching around, trying to like search the lake or the pond to see if something's in there. And you're like, what's going on? Well, it seems like Felix is missing. Oliver wakes up and kind of sees this commotion, goes outside, and you eventually see Elspeth, the mother, going to the hedge maze, getting to the center, and then screaming. And it turns out that that is where Felix is. Felix is in the center of the maze. He seems to be dead. You don't really know why, but all you know is that he's dead in the maze. Now, after they find Felix, they don't move him because it seems to be something that the police have to be involved in, and they all sit down for lunch after. It is a very kind of strange scene. It shows like how like the family compartmentalizes emotions, because Farleigh and Venetia are like crying. Oliver seems like strangely calm during this. The father is like trying to wake Felix up, and the mother's like, no, we shouldn't touch him. The police are here, and also it's time for lunch. So they all go back and sit down for lunch. Farleigh and Venetia are a mess. Elspeth is like eating. Oliver is also eating, and then the father is just kind of like scatterbrained, but still trying to put on a strong face. Now, this dinner is amazingly awkward because they like try to have conversation about the party. No one really seems to want to talk about it. And through this all, the butlers are trying to like close the curtains so that the family doesn't see the coroner come up to get the body, and like they have trouble closing the curtains. And when they do finally close the curtains, they're red see-through curtains, so the entire room is bathed in red. It is a wonderful, awkward, perfect shot. Eventually, Farleigh asks like why Oliver is still even there. But Farleigh yells at him like saying, "Oliver, get out! You shouldn't even be here." Oliver says like, "You shouldn't really throw stones," as someone who was doing lines the night before someone died. And so this implies that maybe Felix died of a drug overdose, and Oliver is implying that maybe that drug overdose was from Farleigh. This seems to hit a nerve with the dad, and the dad, asks if this is true. Farleigh doesn't answer, and and then the dad throws him out and says like, "You're gone for good." He tells the butlers like search his room, find whatever drugs are in there. And he says, "I'm not going to tell the cops, but this is the last favor I do for you, like forever." So it seems like this was the straw that broke the camel's back, and now Farleigh is out of the family. So now we only have the two kids remaining, Venetia and Oliver. And we see Felix's funeral. The family does the tradition with writing the name on the stone, throws it in a river. And then we get a very strange scene where Oliver cries over Felix's fresh grave and gets a little bit too intimate with it. There's all sorts of like weird scenes like this throughout. Again, they're very strange, but they do kind of show like the depths of the kind of strangeness of both the family and of Oliver. Now later, Oliver walks into the shared bathroom that he and Felix used to share, and Venetia's in the bath. She's bathing. And they have a little confrontation, and Venetia eventually tells him that like the servants call him Spider-Man because he's always in the corner skulking around weaving his little Oliver webs. And she says that I don't think you're a spider, I think you're a moth. You're quiet, harmless, and drawn to shiny things. And then she smells Felix's aftershave on him and says that he's like a disgusting nobody, that he like ate up Felix's plate and licked it clean. And then they kiss. It's a weird scene again. It shows kind of like the mixed emotions that Venetia has, and also how Oliver is kind of manipulating this because he definitely put on Felix's aftershave probably for this exact moment. But after this, we find out that Venetia couldn't live without her brother also. And next scene we see her in the bathtub, but it is full of blood and there's a razor blade on the edge. So seems like Venetia couldn't take it. She killed herself also. And then we get another funeral with the family. Now it's just Oliver and the family, and they throw a Venetia rock into the river. Now, after this, it seems like Elspeth doesn't want Oliver to leave, but the father does. And so the father calls him in later and basically says, like, how much is it going to take to get you to leave? Like, my wife doesn't want you to leave. I don't think it's good for you to be here. She has to grieve. We have to grieve in private. And so he offers Oliver money to leave. Oliver at first is like, no, I'm going to stay. I think it's best for me to stay. But eventually he seems to be persuaded. They come to some number, you don't know what, and Oliver then leaves the house. We later see Oliver read a newspaper, and we find out that the father eventually died. There's a few years later. Oliver looks very different. And next thing we see Elspeth at a coffee shop running into Oliver. Oliver is there writing, working on a laptop. Elspeth comes in the coffee shop randomly, sees him, recognizes him, like says, "So great to see you." Says, "Look, you've grown up," in like a kind of suggestive way. Oliver does look very different. He is a little bit taller. He, is a little bit more put together. It seems like that money from the father went a long way. And Elspeth seems genuinely happy to see him. Before she leaves, she invites him to come stay at Saltburn because now the place is empty. Like, it's just her. Her kids are gone. Farleigh's out, and the father just died. So she invites him to stay at Saltburn. And after this, we get some more narration from Oliver. Now, Oliver has been like narrating this story in bits and chunks throughout, and now we get to see like where he's narrating from. So he is narrating from some room. He is in like a tux. He's very put together, and he says, "I can honestly say these last few months have been the happiest of my life. It's just a shame that you got so ill." And then we see Elspeth, the mother, in a like bed, hooked up to a breathing tube. She's in some sort of coma, and she is clearly on life support. We see that before this, she had signed over Saltburn to him. I don't know if they got married or if she just kind of like willed it to him, but somehow he got control of Saltburn. And then as Oliver keeps talking, we find out just how many little Oliver spiderweb schemes he did. He says that he loved Felix, but he also hated him and kind of hated like what Felix stood for. And then we kind of see the overall journey of Oliver. We see how Oliver was the one that originally popped Felix's tire and set up him to kind of like lose his bike, and then happened to come by and let him borrow his bike. He also pretended like he didn't have much money during one of their initial encounters so that Felix would come in and like pay for some drinks and start kind of take pity on Oliver. We already remember that he told Felix that his dad had died, even though his dad was fine. That kind of like got him into there. And then we find out some of the more sinister things. We find out that Oliver drugged the alcohol he was drinking on that fateful night, that Felix then grabbed after Oliver gave his speech to him and drank also. So Oliver basically kind of like either poisoned or caused Felix to have a drug overdose. We then see that Oliver also slipped something into Venetia's drink when she was in the bathtub, and he is the one that cut her wrist. We also find out that after Oliver and Farleigh hooked up, he took Farleigh's phone and messaged the person to talk about like selling one of the artifacts. That was Oliver behind that as well. He was behind a lot of these schemes. I don't think he killed the father, but maybe he was clearly just biding his time, because when he ran into Elspeth, he was there on his computer, and you see what his computer was printing, and it's just garbage, like gibberish. He was there waiting for her to show up so that they could have a chance encounter. And now that all of this is put into place, now that he has Saltburn Manor, he then disconnect Elspeth's breathing tube and pulls out the life support tube. Elspeth dies, and now Saltburn is his. The film ends with him walking through Saltburn naked, and then some music starts playing, and he starts dancing throughout the manor in this, again, very impressive long tracking shot, following a naked Oliver throughout this manor. And we get one last shot where Oliver dances around to this like diorama of the family. It's a silly little like diorama of the family that they had earlier. It had all the family members, and Oliver has placed each of their funeral rocks on top of their characters. And so after the funerals, he went in, like grabbed the rocks and put them all on there as another collection, another like strange thing that he did. And that's it. That's the movie. That is Saltburn. Like I said, I really liked it. It is strange. It is weird, but it is so much fun in various ways. It is funny and darkly funny. It is sarcastic and cringeworthy. Overall, I loved it. I thought it was really, really good. Just another like example of Emerald Fennell's creativity and wonderful storytelling. I definitely think you should check it out. So see it in select theaters on November 17, 2023, and a wider release on November 22nd, 2023. And thanks so much for watching. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.